You guys, Action Bronson has been on this show a great many times, and we love Action. And what we love most about Action is you never know what's going to happen when he's here. Up to and including, you never know if he'll be here. And I am sorry to say that tonight he is not. He's welcome back. Anytime. But I will say, when you're supposed to be on a talk show, and then you don't show, that's capricious. But we've got a fallback plan, you guys. This is a big deal for us. I can't believe we got him. You know him not just from doing cue cards at our show. He's also been doing cue cards at Saturday Night Live since 1990. Please, just welcome from backstage. He was here. He's always here. Please welcome Wally Fariston. Oh, my God.
Hey, Steve, Mike, how you guys doing? Oh, how you doing? How's everybody doing? I know everybody.
Take a seat. You know everybody.
I had a rough entrance there.
Yeah, I was going to say, 7 years in, we've never had anybody crash into, into the door.
I'm used to coming in from that way.
Yeah, well, it's still just a door. Yeah. Like if you...
That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, if you go through one door, you should be able to get through most. You know, I'm bummed out because when you came out, I thought we should have done that. You know, sometimes when people hit their first home run, none of the players clap.
They applaud, yeah.
I should have told the crew, don't clap when Wally comes out. That would have been a little.
That would have been funny.
Wally, thank you so much for being here. Now, a lot of people think you just hold cue cards. You actually have a company and you do cue cards for a lot of different shows. And I want to ask real quick, you had to come up with a name for a company that encompassed everything it did. Yeah. And it had to be a name that would immediately make people think that guy obviously knows what he's doing.
Right.
You went through hundreds of names. I remember you doing it. Can you please tell everybody what you came up with?
New York City cue cards. But I finished on it. Probably wasn't 100 names. It was probably the first thing that came to my mind. And I was like, that's perfect.
Wait, what about Cue Cards by Wally?
Well, that's my other company.
Oh, tell everybody about Cue Cards by Wally.
Cue Cards by Wally, I started during the pandemic when I wasn't working. I was bored and I was sitting around at home, and I thought, if I can't do cue cards for celebrities like yourself and other people, why don't I do personalized cue cards for people at home? Yeah. Because they can't go to birthday parties, they couldn't go to parties. It was kind of a perfect time to do it.
And these are on the iconic SNL cue cards?
Same cue cards, written all by me.
Yeah.
Which I was shocked to think people would want. But they did, and every time I sent one out and I looked at it before I sent it out, I was like, they're really gonna be disappointed, I think, because it's just really marker on a piece of cardboard.
Yeah.
But every time they got it, they were like, this is the greatest thing I've ever gotten in my life, and they loved it.
It's really nice when someone is willing to admit that their product is just marker on a piece of cardboard.
It really was.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the things we love about you is your honesty. The other thing I want to say is, you know, this is no joke that Cue Card by Wally is a big deal. I, in my dressing room, have my last SNL. Yep. I have the cue card from my good night at Weekend Update, and sort of famously, a lot of cast members want a cue card, and a lot of hosts take them home with them.
Yeah, I'll put together a package usually for hosts, and sometimes I'll say, hey, do you want some souvenirs? So I just sent, it's funny, I sent Carey Mulligan a package of her cue cards, and then I did the Elon Musk show, and I got home, and there was a note, a handwritten letter from Ireland. I thought it was from somebody else, so it was after the show, and I was really tired, and I was reading it, and I still thought it was from somebody else, and it was from Carey Mulligan thanking me for sending her the cards, because she was like, I felt like it was a dream, but having these kind of make it feel like it was reality. So it was really nice.
Who's the Irish person you thought you were getting a letter from? Halfway through a letter from Carey Mulligan, you're like...
There was an Irish guy that I connected with me on Facebook that just said he was coming to see this show. And it was the week after we shut down for the pandemic. So
gotcha.
He couldn't come over. So I sent him you made a joke about Irish people and drinking, like you normally do. And I sent him those cards. And I thought this was a thank you note for that.
Oh, that's very nice.
So, that's why I was confused. But then.
I don't, that wasn't a joke. That was based on something in the news.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's I'm not just going out.
No,
These aren't just like ad hominem attacks on our friends across the seas. Hey, So this is, I want to talk, because I actually do think, one of the questions I get asked a lot, we used to do a Q&A when we'd have an audience here, and a thing that people are genuinely fascinated by is, why does our show use cue cards instead of a teleprompter?
Right.
Now, the cue card shows, as I understand it, they all kind of come from the SNL tree.
Correct.
Jimmy uses cue cards. Conan used cue cards.
Yep.
You did him. We use cue cards, and I think it is that's how we came up.
Yeah.
When hosts come on SNL, a lot of times it's the first time they've used cue cards.
Yeah.
So what is the first thing, and I've watched this happen, but explain to people the first thing you have to do when a host gets there insofar as a cue card.
Well, first of all, I ask them how their eyesight is, because that's the most important thing, if they can see all right. So I'll show them a normal size printed card, and then I'll show them a little bit bigger size printed card, just so we can get off on the right side. Then I've asked if they've ever worked with cue cards before, and most of them haven't. So it's just a basic talking about, seeing them all right. And then, Don, the director of SNL, between me and him, then we'll talk to them about more specific things about how to play them and, where to look at them, and don't memorize anything, that kind of thing.
And have you had, and sometimes you have a host who thinks they're not going to need cards, and then over the course of the week.
Yeah, like, Matthew McConaughey was the nicest guy, but he was like, I'm not going to use the cue cards. And I was like, hey, no problem. I'll be over here, if you need me, And then by, Friday afternoon, he was like, so where are you going to be in case, I need him? And then I'll be over there. And he was like, okay, just in case I need you. And then on Saturday, he was like, all right, where are you going to be for each sketch? And he thanked me after, and he apologized. I go, you don't need to apologize. But he was like, I didn't understand how inclusive the cards were and how much it changed.
That's the thing. You can't, the real reason you can't memorize on the show is that there's no...
It changes so
You
much.
just change it so much.
Yeah.
You had a moment that I always recall fondly with Charles Barkley. That was a Saturday rehearsal, yeah?
Correct.
Was that? And do you want to tell everybody what went down?
Yeah, so Chris Kelly, the stage manager, came over to me and said, Charles wants to play a practical joke on the cast, and he's going to pretend to be mad at you. No one knows about this but me and you. He's like, are you good with that? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? So we went out there for a sketch, and right in the middle of the sketch, Charles breaks character, and he starts yelling at me. He's like, Wally, I can't hold the cards still. I can't see him. He's like, Jesus. And he stormed off, and people were like...
I fully bought it.
People were like shocked. Will Forte actually yelled, hit him, to Charles. Told Charles to hit me. So, which I took umbrage to a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, of course. That meant that he thought it was true, and he finally thought you were going to get...
Wally's going to finally get, hit, get what's coming to him. So Charles stopped halfway off the stage and then said, I'm just busted. Everybody laughed, and that was great. I was beat red, even though I knew about it. I didn't, everyone was staring at me. And then I went over to Will, and I was like, what was it? What the hell, Will? He was like, oh, I was just trying to diffuse the situation. I don't know.
I remember, I was like, what the Wally? It was very, I think the part that I can't believe all these years later is I'm like, I can't believe Charles Barkley was such a good actor.
Yeah.
And by the way, I didn't yell hit him,
no.
But I at the same time, if he had started hitting you, I would not have done anything.
Well,
mostly not because I don't love you. He's a big guy. Yeah.
I get it. No, I understand.
And you do sometimes move the cue cards. You know it, and I know it, and you move the cue cards. Wally, it's, and one of the other reasons, and I want to be sincere for a second, that we don't use a teleprompter is we have a deep a friendship. You've been holding cards, and I always say 95% of the words that I've said on television over a career that's almost 20 years long now are cards that you've been holding up, and I remember that when I did the Golden Globes, we had you there just in case, standing in a tuxedo next to the teleprompter, just in case something went wrong.
Yeah, I never returned that tuxedo, by the way.
You never returned it?
No, I kept it. That's okay, right?
Well, it's very unfair for you to say it now in front of America. This is Wally. You can see him most nights. Most nights on Late Night. Thank you so much for being here. Action, again, we do hope you come back soon as well. We'll be right back with more Late Night.